everyone, Jason Gilbo here, Jake Gilbo 11. Look at some GPP bats for tonight's 8-game slate. Let's jump into things here. We got a catcher, a fairly decent position. You look at, what high price options there are. Gary Sanchez hasn't been particularly great against lefties. I don't mind him, but I won't be going that route. Brian McCann here I like against Jason Hamill. Hamill gives up a ton of hard contact to lefties. That's in a good spot for me to consider. Bad ballpark, but this guy's, 2 homers over the last 2 games. I don't mind riding the train here. I don't mind also fading in GPP just because he might come in a little bit popular and McCann's not the most stable option. So I don't mind going that route. I like Tyler Flowers. I got up against Ben Lively. You look at Flowers this year; he's been absolutely phenomenal against right-handed pitching. 392 WOBA. Doesn't show off a ton of power, but in this lineup, hitting in hitting in that order behind these guys, I mean, there's going to be some RBI situations, especially with the 5-run total. So I'll definitely be considering them. If Derek Norris is hitting up in the lineup around 6th or 7th, you can look at him against the lefty. Derek Holland, as I mentioned on the stacking pod, absolutely awful against right-handed bats. 362 WOBA, 43% hard contact rate. Norris has an extreme high hard contact rate against lefties this year, has had that potential in the past. So we'll definitely be looking at them. Outside of that, those are the 3 that I'm considering. Mike Zunino, obviously red hot, coming off a big game. Kyle Gibson, I can certainly see firing away against. But once again, I think he'll draw a little bit higher ownership just because of recency bias. So do note that. First base, I love Chris Davis as always against a left-hander or a right-hander that struggles against lefties. Joe Ross, 4.31 WOBA. 40% hard contact rate, 3.07 home runs per 9. Ross has always struggled with lefties. Chris Davis is certainly in play here. I will be looking at him only in GPPs just because the strikeout rate is still extremely high for this guy, so that's one thing to note. Anthony Rizzo, I'm curious to see his ownership. You look at Chatwood, this is a guy who does struggle with lefties a little bit. 340 WOBA away from home that takes a jump. Those roll a decent amount of ground balls, but in that ballpark, I think it plays a little bit well, obviously, over the last few games where the wind's been blowing in, not so much tonight. So Rizzo's an intriguing kind of pay-up option if you want that upside still. Moving down, a guy who will be popular, and that's Matt Adams going up against Lively. Adams has been phenomenal in terms of power potential, so I do like him. Lively giving up a 322 WOBA to lefties in such a small sample size, 33% hard contact rate. Once again, in that ballpark, there's a lot of potential. So Adams still super cheap. If you need that value first baseman, he'll be higher owned, but I definitely don't mind going up against it. That's pretty much it for me. I think first base is pretty narrow. You can look at a Jose Abreu who, obviously has a decent ISO against right-handed pitching. Odorizzi, can allow the long ball from time to time. Has given up 8 home runs to right-handed bats. Does give up a lot of hard contacts. So as much as I do like Odorizzi, I would not be afraid to use Abreu in a GPP. You'll get him a really low ownership as well. So we're on to second base. I mentioned this on the stacking pod. Brian Dozier, really good spot here against Bergman, who's reverse splits. Dozier, 3,400 on FanDuel, a little bit pricey, kind of what you expect. But on DraftKings, 3,900, it's a really nice price tag for him. Definitely be looking at him for some upside. Daniel Murphy, you can always like. Robinson Cano, I'm in play. Jose Altuve is in play on FanDuel. I don't know if I'll be going there on DK. He's a little expensive. And I just like Cano for a little bit cheaper. We're looking at about a $700, $800 difference between the two, and that's enough for me to kind of make that note. If you're looking cheap, there isn't a ton that I'm really in love with at second base. This is a spot where I'll kind of pay up. I think Dozier is locked and loaded for me on DK at that price tag. FanDuel, it's not so much. I kind of want to see where the lineups. I don't mind a D Gordon. I don't mind a Cesar Hernandez, 3.129 there. Cole does struggle to hold runners on, as I mentioned, does struggle with lefties. Cesar Hernandez in play decent numbers against R.A. Dickey. So those are 2 second base options to also consider. Looking at third base, I love Miguel Sano. This is a guy you can just continue to get low ownership on against reverse splits Christian Bergman. This is kind of one where it's also locked and loaded. Price tag is high, but it's deservingly high. This guy just continues to match the ball, hit the ball hard. This month alone, over 400 WOBA. Coming off a home run last night, has a couple home runs in that Angels series, so ballpark is not hurting these guys out west. So I definitely like Sano quite a bit. And then when you move down here, I mean, Anthony Rendon's a guy to consider. He'll draw some low ownership, but Kyle Seager in a good spot against Kyle Gibson, who's 1.71 home runs per 9 to lefties this year, over 400 WOBA. Seager's in play, hitting the ball well at home for some reason, so he's certainly one that consider. Just given the fact that Seattle bats, I mean, really 1 through 5 are very playable. So I like those guys there. If Derek Dietrich cracks the lineup, I'll consider him as a cheap value guy. There's some potential there against Cole, who does struggle against lefties, 366 WOBA, 42% hard contact rate. So Dietrich is kind of that cheap guy at third base to look at. Looking at shortstop, I don't mind paying up for Carlos Correa or Trey Turner and GPPs. If you have the cash, I won't be breaking the bank for them, though, and kind of diluting the rest of my lineup, but they're in play. Tim Beckham's in play against Holland. A lot of power potential from the right side for Beckham. Does have the highest strikeout rate, but you look at Holland, average strikeout rate at best against righties, ton of hard contact. So I do like the potential there. If you're kind of moving down, Freddie Galvis is cheap, is hitting lower in the lineup. Big run total there in the ballpark. Some decent numbers against R.A. Dickey. He's one to consider as well. I won't be quite going on the Dansby Swanson train again. He's shown up some power the last few games. It's worth noting. Taylor Motter, if he's sitting 5th or 6th in that lineup, I definitely will consider him. He's got some power against right-handed pitching, 232 ISO this year. And like I said, Gibson's certainly one to target. So Motter's a cheap GPP guy you can consider. Looking at outfield, your guys are all in play here up top, of course. But kind of getting away from the less popular guys. Inside Arte, extremely expensive. I don't hate it, but I'm going to talk Steven Souza here, going up against lefties. He's been dialed in of late, hitting the ball extremely well. Going up against Holland, I told you I continue to pick on him. I still don't even mind a Ricky Weeks either. But you look at Souza, what he's been doing of late. Ice over 200 over the last month, over 360 WOBA. Hard contact rate has just been through the roof, near about 38% over the last few weeks. So Souza's dialed in. I like him. He's been leading off against lefties, so there is that to note as well. Consider him. Gregory Polanco, he's cheap, got some power against Edson Volquez. Yes, Volquez threw the no-hitter last time out, but his numbers against lefties are extremely noticeable. 44% hard contact rate, 362 WOBA. Gregory Polanco has some power from the left side. Adam Frazier as well, I don't hate, even at Josh Bell. So lefties in that Pirates lineup will be sneaky just because of the ballpark. They won't be playing him all that much. If you look elsewhere, Jason Hayward's a guy to consider against Chatwood from the left side. Nice value outfielder with some upside. And then you can look at the Seattle-Minnesota game again. I don't hate the Max Kepler, Robbie Grossman plays. Ben Gamel, also from the left side, is very intriguing. So we'll be looking at them. There's a decent amount of value. I think going balance is the way to go tonight. I feel like this mid-range is really intriguing. Atlanta and Philadelphia both feature a ton of value outfielders. Aduba Herrera, Aaron Altair, Michael Saunders, good numbers against Dickey. Markakis, inside Arte is not value anymore. Matt Adams, you can play in the outfield. Matt Kemp's really nice price on DK. So those are plays that I love tonight. Those are kind of the core that I'll be using. So that's going to wrap things up with me. You can check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all great tools and content.